Today we're going to be looking at every active male WWE superstar on the main roster today and ranking their chances of becoming a future WWE World Champion. I feel like becoming a World Champion is becoming harder and harder as these long historic reigns continue to become the norm. Because if we have these 1, 2, 3, 4-year-long title reigns, it just means that there's less chances and opportunities for the rest of the roster. Only time will tell if these long historic reigns are just a fad of the moment right now or if they're just going to become the norm moving forward. For this video, I'm only going to be looking at the male WWE superstars, but there will be a video later on in the week that analyzes the women as well. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm confident you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we upload daily wrestling content. Before we properly jump into things, I want to explain the different tiers that we have. The bottom tier is no chance in hell, and to me, that one's pretty self-explanatory. These are the WWE superstars that I feel confident have 0% chance of becoming a future WWE World Champion. The next tier up is called way down the line. These are WWE superstars that maybe at some point in the future have an opportunity to become a world champion. However, a lot of things need to change and a lot of time needs to pass before we can even consider that. The third tier up is I wouldn't even be mad. These are WWE superstars where if they were to win a world championship, it would be incredibly surprising. However, we could probably make it make sense, so I wouldn't be mad. The second highest tier is, yeah, that makes sense. These are WWE superstars that, although I don't feel 1000% confident are going to become a future world champion, if they were to become a world champion, it would make a tremendous amount of sense. I wouldn't fight it. So yeah, makes sense. And then the highest tier is bet the house. These are the guys that I believe are 1000% going to become a future WWE world champion. All right, now let's jump into it. Let's start off with AJ Styles. Really, the only hurdle to AJ Styles becoming a future world champion again is his age. He's already getting up there. He's on the north side of 45. So that's, to me, the only reason why WWE might not put a world title on him. However, the WWE still trusts him in these world title matches. Don't forget that he was the finalist against Seth Rollins for the newly minted World Heavyweight Championship, and he was just in a fatal 4-way match at the Royal Rumble against Roman Reigns, LA Knight, and Randy Orton. So the WWE clearly still has trust in AJ Styles to compete at this very high level, which means, yeah, if he were to become a world champion, it would make sense to me. Shout out to Akam for wearing a name tag, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to tell them apart. But let's be honest, no chance in hell. I don't think I need to go too deep into this one. We love Tozawa, but even the dance is starting to lose a little bit of its luster, and he never goes full power. Unless Tozawa actually activates Ultra Instinct Tozawa and goes at least 10% of his power, he's not going to become a world champion. But I think Tozawa is too humble, and he's just going to continue operating at 1% Tozawa, which means that there's just no chance in hell. Angelo Dawkins is incredibly talented, but the way that I see things right now, there's just no way that he's going to become a world champion unless a lot of things change. Things that need to change, one, would need to be his perception as a tag team specialist. He needs to separate from his group and go off on his own and become a dominant force. And two, like I said earlier in the video, we need things to change in terms of the norm of these long reigns, because I don't see Angelo Dawkins being one of those individuals that holds a title for a year plus. I think we would need to revert back to the era of those 4 to 5, 6 month reigns for somebody like Angelo Dawkins to properly get a chance. So because of that, we need to look way down the line as a possibility. Angel Garza is still incredibly young, very talented, and sure, I think there is a possibility that way down the line he becomes a world champion, but it's just way too early to even consider this. I think we've seen enough of Apollo Crews that we just know the WWE just doesn't see the value in him to ever consider him becoming a world champion. So I do have to put him in the no chance in hell. Hey, I do love what they're doing with Ashante the Adonis. At least he's going to be getting an opportunity to get more screen time. He's going to be partnering up with Cedric Alexander. I already really like their dynamic, but look, I don't even think that this is a way down the line. I feel like the scripture has already been written for Ashante the Adonis's career in the WWE, so I feel pretty confident that he falls under no chance in hell. Austin Theory's career has really just been a roller coaster of emotions, up, down, to the point where there was a moment where we thought that it was like a guaranteed thing that he was going to become a world champion when he won the Money in the Bank briefcase. However, he won the Money in the Bank briefcase at that wrong time when there was a historic championship reign happening. So again, we need to to figure out whether or not these super long championship reigns are going to become the norm or if this is just a fad. However, this is a 26-year-old man that already has years of experience under his belt, multiple WrestleManias, has worked at the main event level. He is going to win a world championship at some point in his career. I feel confident, even though you might not, you might want to argue this one, but I feel confident that I still think you got to bet the house on Austin Theory at some point in his career. Berto. He now goes by Berto because we're all too dumb to remember Umberto, let alone Umberto Carrillo. Oof, that would just be too much. He now goes by Berto, by the way. Similar situation to Angel Garza, incredibly talented. Wouldn't be surprised if at some point later down the line, late 30s, maybe early 40s, they pull the trigger on him. He is really a chip off the old block, but as it stands right now, still too young. He still just needs way more seasoning way down the line. If you want even more wrestling content, consider coming over to patreon.com/SantiZap, where nearly 500 people are getting the Raw reviews, NXT reviews, SmackDown reviews, monthly mailbag, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early, and now Wrestling is Cool Gaming is also being uploaded there as well. So it's just a lot more content. Come check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. I'll make it the top link in the description or in the pinned comment. Okay, back to the video. If Big E returns to the WWE, that alone is just a victory for all of us. And if he does return to the WWE, I wouldn't be surprised if they do decide to put a world title on him as a big ass welcome back present, because Big E really was one of those unsung heroes as a world champion. I don't feel like he really got a great run under Vince McMahon. I feel like he could be treated better as a world champion under Triple H. So if he were to come back, if they do put a world championship on him, I don't think anyone here would really be debating. I think, yeah, that makes sense. Bobby Lashley is Bobby freaking Lashley, kind of a similar scenario really to AJ Styles, except Bobby Lashley seems to just get faster and stronger as he gets older. I don't understand the genetics of this man. Somebody please tell me how Bobby Lashley does this, because like I said, he just seems to get better every year. Yeah, this is Bobby Lashley. He is a force and a threat anytime he's inserted into any single division. If he is ever reinserted back into the world title picture, this would be pretty much a no-brainer. I would say that it would make sense. If Braun Strowman does come back, this is somebody that's won a Universal Championship before. If he is reinserted back into the world title picture, similar to a Bobby Lashley, I don't think many of us would be incredibly shocked if they decided to do another, perhaps shorter title reign for somebody like a Braun Strowman. I would say it would make sense. Brock Lesnar, believe it or not, is still listed as a WWE superstar on WWE.com, so I guess I'm including him in this video. However, the WWE and all of the surrounding entities of the WWE, like WWE 2K Games and WWE Shop, made it clear that they want nothing to do with Brock Lesnar, and I would assume that the most likely outcome is that Brock Lesnar is never going to wrestle in the WWE again. Even if he were to come back to the WWE somehow, I have a tough time believing that the WWE is going to put their biggest prize on somebody that has such a shadow looming over them, even if he were to make a comeback. I'm gonna say no chance in hell on Brock Lesnar, which is kind of mind-boggling to think about. Braun Breaker is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. He will win a world championship. I have him on this list, even though he's still technically in NXT, because he's in the current negotiation on-screen process of signing with either Raw or SmackDown, so I wouldn't be surprised if by the most recent episode of SmackDown, he's already signed and fully committed to the main roster. But this is the future of the WWE. This is a 25-year-old man that the WWE is going to build around for the next 15 years. He is going to be a multi-time world champion. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those individuals that has a 1 year plus reign. This is a guy that is just a bona fide Hall of Famer already in terms of the future path that's been laid out for him. This is a bet the house. Bronson Reed is an interesting case because Bronson Reed, to become a world champion, really needs the landscape of professional wrestling to change and revert back to the era of the shorter championship reigns. However, if we were to revert to that, and if he were to become this monster heel, this unstoppable monster, I'll be honest, I don't think I'd even be mad. Sure, go for it. Brutus Creed is already feeling like the lesser of the Creed brothers, I'm being honest with you, even though they're both still incredibly talented, both incredibly young, and still have nothing but time ahead of them. So, because of that, I am going to put him in the way down the line category. Just so much time needs to pass before we can start considering Brutus as a serious threat to really anything regarding singles titles. I know that things could maybe change for Cameron Grimes, but I feel like I've seen enough. I feel like I've seen enough of how Triple H is going to book Cameron Grimes, and the answer, sadly, is very clearly not well. So, no chance in hell. Look, if they didn't pull the trigger on Carlito back in the Ruthless Aggression era when he should have been a WWE champion, they're not going to pull the trigger on him now when he's significantly older and just nowhere near as popular as he was back then. It's no chance in hell. You know, I love Cedric Alexander, one of my favorite in-ring workers. He just doesn't get the opportunities that he should. No chance in hell. This one really hurts me because I really like Chad Gable. So much would need to change for Chad Gable to be considered in that world championship pantheon, and it's just not going in that direction. He's hardly even considered as a credible threat to the Intercontinental Championship anymore. So talking about the world championship just seems like a fairy tale at this point. So sadly, as much as I love Chatty Daddy, I gotta put him in no chance in hell. I think the only thing stopping CM Punk from becoming a world champion in the WWE is CM Punk. And this isn't some sort of like analogy of like, oh, he's his own demon, he's his own worst enemy, he's gonna get himself fired from the WWE, yada yada yada. No, I literally mean his physical self. This man seems to get injured anytime he makes a run of a couple of months, whether it's in WWE or in AEW. It's just become the norm of CM Punk's latter half of his career, sadly. However, I still have to put him in Bet the House. This is CM freaking Punk, dude. I'm confident that the plan was for him to be the one to dethrone Seth Rollins, but of course, again, his physical self got in the way again. But once he comes back, if he can last more than 5 months, I think you gotta bet the house on him. Cody Rhodes, come on. Come on, do you really need me to give you this long-winded answer as to why Cody Rhodes is a future world champion in the WWE? Dude, it's written in the stars. Shout out if you know what WrestleMania that song was from. Anyways, bet the house on Cody Rhodes, for God's sakes. He's the cover athlete of WWE 2K24. He is the face of the WWE, two-time Royal Rumble winner. Right? He has to win. He has to. Cruz del Toro has been impressing the ever-living Christ out of me recently because I no longer call him the LWOMPC. He is Cruz del Toro, and he is very good. But unless things dramatically change in this timeline that we're on, the real answer is that there's just no chance in hell. Damian Priest. The hell can I say about Damian Priest? Should have been a world champion back in the summer. That he should have won. He should have cashed in against Seth Rollins in the summer at SummerSlam, at Money in the Bank. At some point in the summer, he should have been world champion. And it feels like the window is closing and closing and closing, and it's making less and less sense that this cash in is actually going to work, which really has me scared. Still, I feel like there is enough time. The window is still large enough for Senior Money in the Bank that you still have to bet the house on him, but the window's closing. Dexter Lumis still works for the WWE. Wouldn't know that because he never appears anywhere. No chance in hell. Dominic Mysterio is a hero. You love Dominic Mysterio. I love Dominic Mysterio. I think the only person that doesn't love Dominic Mysterio is his deadbeat of a father, Rey Mysterio. Here's the thing. I do think that there's a strong chance that somewhere down the line, maybe 10, 15, even maybe 20 years, Dominic Mysterio becomes a world champion. I am going to put him way down the line, but not in the same vein where like, oh my goodness, he needs to change everything. I feel like you can still have the same Dominic Mysterio just so long as he can continue to stay healthy, continue to be a contributor in the WWE. Maybe when he's 35, 36, 37, the right storyline comes by for somebody like Dirty Dominic Mysterio to be that evil, conniving, snively weasel champion. It could work. We just have to give it, I think, quite a few years for this to actually pan out. I feel the same way about Dragon Lee, actually. I have Dragon Lee in way down the line as well, and I think that we just need to have a world where the WWE is willing to re-embrace the possibility of a masked luchador as a champion. I feel like they haven't really ever tested those waters since Rey Mysterio. It's been a really, really long time since we've had a masked luchador be a world champion in the WWE. So, I mean, I would say that The odds aren't necessarily in Dragon Lee's favor in terms of historical evidence that we have, but he really is a very talented figure, and maybe he unmasks at some point. I hope not. I would just like the WWE to embrace a masked luchador, maybe somewhere down the line. Drew McIntyre. The only hurdle to Drew McIntyre becoming a world champion in the WWE again is not re-signing with the WWE, which looks to be like a strong possibility. He hasn't re-signed yet, so who knows? Maybe he does plan on leaving for AEW, maybe going back into the independents. Maybe he plans on retiring. I don't know. Until he re-signs a WWE contract, they are not going to put a world title on him. I am confident of that. Still, I think he re-signs, and I think you got to bet the house on Drew McIntyre. Elton Strong, I love him. Yes, boy. No chance in hell. But don't change anything about him, please. I love him. Eric is currently being left behind by Ivar. I think Ivar took the Viking ship and is now sailing it off on his own. And I kind of don't want Ivar to return to being a tag team specialist. I've been really enjoying singles Ivar. So unless Eric, when he comes back from injury, is able to really create an identity for himself as a singles competitor in the way that Ivar has, I don't think anything is going to change. So for now, no chance in hell. They should have done this, right? He should have won at SummerSlam. He should have won at Money in the Bank. He should have been a world champion again. The fact that Finn Balor has not won another world championship since having to put aside that Universal Championship that he won all of those years ago, he was only champion for less than 24 hours, is a complete travesty. However, him not winning this year just makes me believe that the WWE doesn't see him as world title material. Also, the fact that he's kind of just like a secondary player in his own faction of Judgment Day at this point. I think that the notion of him being world champion is gone. And I don't want it to be that way. So if they were to do it, I wouldn't be mad. I'd be really fucking jazzed if they do it. But I feel like the chances of it happening are really waning now. Giovanni Vinci right now, like the identity that he has as one of the lackeys of Imperium, it doesn't make sense to consider him as a world champion, but he's in his early 30s. He still has a long time left to his career. So there is still a lot of time for things to change in terms of his character, his position within the card, etc. I'm going to say way down the line, but like, this is like, we really need to think way into the future. Grayson Waller, I think, is a future world champion. I'm going to say that, yeah, it makes sense for him to be a world champion. I don't have enough evidence to say that I'm certain he's going to be one. I feel more strongly about Austin Theory than I do Grayson Waller at this moment, mostly because Austin Theory has had more experience working in the main event scene than on the main roster than Grayson Waller has. However, if Grayson Waller continues to do his thing, I think it could be an inevitability, but for right now, I'm going to put him in. Yeah, it would make sense. Gunther is a similar situation to Braun Breaker. I think this is a when, not an if situation. He has turned the Intercontinental Championship into a quasi-world championship, in my opinion. Whenever he drops this title, he should be the first person in line for a World Heavyweight Championship opportunity. I would love for him to get a world title opportunity at Bash in Berlin. It would be great. We'll see. However, I don't think you have to debate this one too much. I'm going to put Gunther in the bet the house. Next up, we have Ivar, and Ivar has been a renaissance. He has been absolutely fantastic ever since he was forced to become a singles competitor in the WWE. I'm just going to tell you right now, the WWE is not going to have a Viking cosplayer become their world champion, world heavyweight or undisputed. It's just not going to happen. However, he has impressed so much that we know there's talent under this Viking gimmick. So if we were to look at things way down the line in a reality where this Viking gimmick is done, it's dead and buried, then maybe, perhaps there's a world and room where Ivar can become a world champion, but not as a Viking. JD McDonough has the talent, but I'm going to be honest, he just doesn't have, right now at least, the charisma and the size to be a realistic option to be a future world champion in the WWE. I think a lot would need to change for him to become a world champion, but the fact that he's still in his early 30s and he's a great worker in his own right, I'm not going to put him in no chance in hell. It's damn close, but I'm going to put him in way down the line as an opportunity, as a maybe fractional chance that it could happen. Jey Uso has done something that's incredibly difficult to do for someone that was in his situation. He was able to shake off the stigma of being a forever tag team specialist. Jey Uso is a single star, and he is main event Jey Uso, even though right now he's more so mid-card event Jey Uso, but still, this is a man that main evented SummerSlam against Roman Reigns for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. So this is a guy that's going to continue to get these types of opportunities down the line. Right now, I wouldn't put him in bet the house. I wouldn't necessarily bet any money on it. But with what they've done in terms of a visual makeover for Jey Uso, and when I say visual, I don't necessarily mean his looks. I mean the perception that we have of him as a going from tag team specialist to a single star. I'm going to say that if they were to put the title on him, I'd say, okay, you've done enough where it makes sense. Jimmy, on the other hand, they've gone in a different direction where he's still a stooge in a bigger faction of the bloodline. He's still a secondary player, but my goodness, he has just this infectious heel personality that it's impossible to not like. If the WWE actually somehow were to give us a realistic run for Jimmy Uso to become a world champion down the line, I wouldn't even be mad. Jinder Mahal, yeah, I will never hinder Jinder on this page. You know that. Never hinder Jinder. We want Jinder. I wouldn't even be mad. Joaquin Wilde, there you go. I know your name. It's not just LWO NPC numero dos. No chance in hell, though. Johnny Gargano would need to have some sort of like Daniel Bryan-like run to make this actually make sense. But if it were to happen, I don't think either of us would be mad. Julius Creed, I think, is a notch above his brother, Brutus Creed. I have Julius Creed in way down the line, mostly because I do think that there needs to be an actual passage of time for him to grow as a competitor and as a storyteller. But right now, like, he is incredibly gifted. He is so good in the ring. There are the other aspects of his job as a professional wrestler that he needs to become better at, but he's got the physical stuff down, and he's got it down real good. So if enough time passes where Julius Creed can actually be built up, I see a world where this could happen way down the line, but I think it can happen more than Brutus Creed, frankly. Carl Anderson, let's be honest, no chance in hell. Karrion Kross, I mean, I guess I can put him in the yeah, it makes sense. Karrion Kross is a guy they keep trying with, and they keep trying with him because clearly they see something in him as a main event player. I think to me, it's very clear. He just doesn't really ever deliver. And I think he doesn't deliver because even though he is given opportunities, he's not necessarily given the best opportunities. But I think right now with the Final Testament, we're at make or break. And if he can make this work, if he can finally get something over on the main roster, then I'm going to say that it does make sense. Kevin Owens. It's Kevin freaking Owens. If they were to put a title on him tomorrow, or any one of us going to argue, I don't think so. It makes sense. Kit Wilson, don't change anything about Pretty Deadly. No chance in hell. I love these guys though. Kofi Kingston, I don't know how we would get back to it, but if we were to somehow have another renaissance, a rebirth of Kofi Mania, sure, I'm here for it. I don't see how it happens. I don't see it ever happening, but I wouldn't even be mad. I think it's fair to say that LA Knight is in the top tier echelon of individuals that are vying for world championships. I just don't know if the WWE yet sees him as a world champion. I like to think that he is world championship material. They haven't given me enough to yet say bet the house. So I'm gonna go one tier below that and say it would make sense. Logan Paul, if he was a full-time performer, I would say bet the house. This guy is so good. I think the only thing that's preventing Logan Paul from becoming a world champion is that wrestling isn't his main focus. He's got so many other things going for him, all of them incredibly successful. His podcast, YouTube channel, Prime Hydration, Prime Energy. He's just successful at everything that he does. And yes, he's successful at wrestling as well, but all of those other things that he's working on could at any moment pull him away from the world of professional wrestling. Still, he has done enough to impress me, and he is young enough and talented enough for me to say it makes sense. I just don't feel confident, not yet at least, to bet the house. Ludwig Kaiser, honestly, I wouldn't even be mad. I feel like you don't even need to change too much about him. I think the only thing that needs to change is for him to not be the second fiddle to Gunther. Inevitably, when it happens, when Imperium goes in their separate ways and Ludwig Kaiser becomes a singles competitor, I don't want them to change anything about him. I already think he's a perfect character. He's already a great in-ring worker. And if that were to happen and he were to in some weird loophole become a world champion, sure, I wouldn't even be mad. Luke Gallows, no chance in hell. Montez Ford, I wouldn't be mad, but there's still the stigma of the tag team specialist that they haven't been able to remove from him yet. They did a good job of removing it from Jey Uso, so we know the WWE is capable of it, which is why I wouldn't be mad. The fuck is this? Odyssey Jones, no chance in hell. I'm gonna put Omos in the I wouldn't be mad category. I don't think that he's a no chance in hell. I don't think that it's necessarily way down the line. I feel like if the WWE at any moment sees Omos as a world champion contender, it could very well be within the next 5 years. We'll have to see if he can stay healthy and continue to improve as an in-ring worker, character worker. He's still, believe it or not, very young. So there's a lot of room for growth for Omos still. So right now, I'm going to say I wouldn't be mad. I kind of have him in the same realm as somebody like a Bronson Reed. Otis, I feel like that ship sailed, even though that ship should have never been in the harbor in the first place when he won the Money in the Bank briefcase. I still don't know why they did that. Clearly, they didn't know why they did that either because they took the briefcase off of him. Still, no chance in hell now. Pete Dunne is still very young and still has a long way to go in his career. Way down the line, if he continues to be as good as he is, he stays healthy, he continues to be a great worker, I could see a world where when he's in his 30s, maybe he becomes a world champion. I love R-Truth, but he knows his role, he knows what he's good at, and it's not being a world champion in the WWE. Plus, he's in his 50s, even though he still looks like he's in his 20s. I'm gonna say no chance in hell. Randy Orton is a guaranteed bet your house. The only thing that could prevent him from becoming a world champion is if he has to prematurely retire. At some point later in his career, they are going to tell the story of his chase for immortality for the 17th title run. Not only has he bet the house to win another one, he's bet the house to win multiple, in my opinion. Rey Mysterio, like, I guess I wouldn't be mad because I guess I could make it make sense, but let's be honest, the odds that this happen are so minuscule, but this is a Hall of Famer and this is a former world champion that for me to say, you know, no chance in hell or way down the line doesn't make sense because there's not much of a line left. This is kind of the only category where it makes sense to put him. Thanks for wearing a name tag, Razar. No chance in hell. Ricochet. Oh, Ricochet. All the talent in the world and just cannot emotionally connect with people. I mean, I can't tell him why. I don't know if I could connect with people personally, but I know that as an audience member, he has not been able to connect with me or with the wider WWE universe. But damn it, he is so good. If ever he is able to connect the dots and finally be able to get himself over as a personality, then maybe down the line there's an opportunity for Ricochet to become a world champion. Roman Reigns, obviously he's a current world champion, but let's pretend that he were to lose it. What are the odds that he wins another one? There's honestly two categories where it could land. It's either bet your house, which is where I have him, or he retires and it's no chance in hell. I hope it's not that. I hope that if he were to lose, that there's some sort of comeback story because he's inevitably going to take a ton of time off. But yeah, I think that it's Roman freaking Reigns, man. I feel like it would be irresponsible of me to not put him in bet your house. Sami Zayn. I feel like it's time for Sami Zayn. They're telling a really good story with him right now. A great narrative that makes sense for him to become a world champion at some point in 2024. I will say, if it doesn't happen in 2024, then I'm going to move it to no chance in hell. But right now, I am bullish on the chances of Sami Zayn becoming a world champion. So bullish that I'm saying bet the damn house. Sanga is no chance in hell. Santos Escobar, look, right now, if it was 2013 when there were 2 world championships, then I would say that there's a really strong chance that he becomes a world champion because he has the look right now. He's got a great faction. He's getting much better as a character worker. However, the only thing that's preventing him from me really betting the house on him is just how the world championships are nowadays with very few champions and very few opportunities. That needs to change for somebody like Santos Escobar to get a chance at a world championship. I'm going to say it makes sense. Seth Rollins, come on, bet the house. Even if he loses this World Heavyweight Championship, he's gonna win another one. He still has plenty of time in his prime. It's gonna happen again, bet the house. Sheamus, I think he falls in that same realm as the Bobby Lashleys and the AJ Styles of the world, where he's up there in age, but this is a legend that, yeah, if they were to give him a world title, I don't think any of us would be fighting it. It would make sense. Shinsuke Nakamura. I love Shinsuke, but Shinsuke is a professional loser. He knows how to lose every single feud that he's a part of. If he somehow were to go on some magical run, I mean, the chances are so low. But if, I wouldn't be mad. Solo Sikoa, I don't get Solo Sikoa. I really don't get the hype for this guy. To me, look, I don't like calling people overrated, but if you were to put a gun to my head and like, if you force me to tell you who I think is overrated, I'd probably point at Solo Sikoa. But clearly the WWE has big plans for this guy. Down the line, he is a bet your house. He's gonna win a world championship. I still just don't get how just like screaming and looking at your thumb is a gimmick. I don't get it. The Miz, I don't know how we get back to it, but The Miz is a gem, is a national treasure that we all need to love and respect. And if it were to somehow come to be, if the stars were to align, that we would get The Miz as a WWE champion once again, no one in the world would be mad, but I don't think the odds are very good. The Rock. Ugh. I don't know if he's quite bet the house because I don't know at what capacity he's back. If he's only going to be doing a WrestleMania here or there, if he plans on doing something a little bit more consistent, maybe doing a Brock Lesnar-like schedule. If he were to become a more of a regular, then I would say bet the house. But I don't see that being the case with just how incredibly busy he is. This is a guy that's running an empire aside from being a WWE superstar. This is a guy that's being in talks for being a future presidential candidate. He's got a lot of things going. So I'll say, yeah, it makes sense, but I don't know if it's bet your house. Tommaso Ciampa just sort of falls in the same category as Johnny Gargano. If they were to make this happen, it had to be some beautiful Daniel Bryan-like run. The stars would need to align. Be difficult for these stars to align, but I wouldn't be mad. Tyler Bate is still ridiculously young, even though he's been wrestling for a long time at this point. But this man is still in his 20s, still has a long time left in his career. So I kind of put him right next to Pete Dunne at way down the line. Veer, well, I mean, if he were to come, then yeah, but right now he hasn't come yet, so no chance in hell. And Xavier Woods, if they were to tell some narrative about Xavier Woods overcoming the odds a la Kofi Mania, or maybe something else entirely that is not related in any way, shape, or form to Kofi Mania, I feel like this man has put in the dues to get that opportunity for us to respect it if the WWE were to make that decision, so I wouldn't even be mad. Under Vince McMahon, Andrade would probably be a way down the line or maybe a no chance in hell. However, under Triple H, let's not forget that this man became one of the greatest NXT champions in the brand's history. And now Triple H, that man that made Andrade his world champion, is now the one that is booking the main roster. So I like his chances a lot more under Triple H. And on top of that, he's incredibly talented. If WWE wants to once again crown a top Latino superstar as a WWE champion, I don't think it gets better than Andrade. And, you know, it doesn't help to be Charlotte's main squeeze to help maybe politic your way to winning a world championship. So I'm going to say that there's enough evidence out there for me to say it makes sense. All right, folks, I'm done for today. Let me know in the comments what you agree or disagree with, but I'm done. Get out of here.